If everyone can get seated, we can start with this the second section of today. We're now moving in the area of challenge D that we identified early in the day in the presentation. So we're looking at how new governance models for ultra-secure IT, which need to be super trustworthy, and security technologies could help us make the best out of AI. As far as the scenarios that there are, and improve on the AI safety. And we're also going to look at the AI safety problem more widely on that. And I'm introducing Stuart Armstrong. He's from the University of Oxford Future Humanity Institute. The Future Humanity Institute is an institute which I think is possibly the most important in the world now, because its work on AI safety and future AI is absolutely fundamental. It's been recognized by Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and most of the community, and it's one of the players with the top US research organizations in this area, also working with DeepMind, and Stuart himself is working on papers written on DeepMind, solving some of the many crucial issues of AI. So we're really honored to have Stuart here to tell us more how we can understand and control AI. Thank you.
For that. I want to point out we also do sort of engineered biotech risk at the air as well. We've dropped things like nuclear war and asteroid impact because it turns out they're just not risky enough for our liking. Anyway, so basics and risks of AI is going to be the original talk, but let's add in the rewards as well, because they are potentially huge. This is one of the only risks that has a huge upside if it goes right. The main advantage of not having a nuclear war is that you don't have a nuclear war. The main advantage of having a not dangerous AI is that you have a powerful, aligned AI. So AI is fantastic if done right. Now, as I mentioned before, what do I mean by AI? The term is hopelessly ambiguous. I'm going to focus on the old-fashioned idea, software with the same skills or superior skills to a human. What some people call AGI nowadays. And the reason I'm focusing on this, and potentially the sort of super intelligent or so-called super intelligent version of this, the reason I focus on this is because if this can be controlled, then the lower intelligence, lower powered AIs can probably be controlled as well. So if the problem can be solved here, the problem can be hopefully solved in general. Now, not only is AI ambiguous, but predictions about AI are terrible. This were the smartest people in the world with computers at the time. They knew in practice how to make computers do stuff, and this is probably one of the worst predictions ever. 1956, we would have AI over the summer. Dreyfus, 9 years later, in an excellent, it is a really excellent piece of work that would have got more attention if we hadn't compared computer scientists to alchemists. But anyway, in an otherwise excellent thing, he was kind of predicting we're getting to the limit of what can be done. These predictions are both very wrong. Here are some other predictions, most of which are already wrong. This is the date at which we would have some AI as given by different people. This is Turing's original prediction, and here you can make out the AI winter where everyone's pretending they weren't working on AI anymore. But they're all over the place, there's no pattern, and even in theory, there's no reason to suspect that people are going to converge on good dates. So, here's the problem with formal and informal arguments. There are a lot of formal arguments you can make in this field, and they're almost all useless. AIs will probably not be able to solve NP-hard problems. You can show that as much as you can show anything. It's a strong result, but it's completely useless. Because what we need is how good the AIs are approximating these solutions. And there's no real, there's not many strong results on that. And more importantly, how better they are at approximating it than human beings. The fact that AIs cannot solve complete problems at high speed does not reassure us that the AIs will not be able to outsmart actual human beings in the actual world where we have hosts of vulnerabilities. Here's the first hint that AI, so because of this I'm going to offer only informal arguments for why AIs might be powerful. I know that informal arguments are not very weak, but they're probably the best things we have in this area, unfortunately. So one thing is the copyable human capital. Most of the added value of a corporation, apart from its capital, is the people on it and its structure. If you had an AI, you can produce a corporation by copying the AI as many times as you want, maybe giving them some individual skill training, and create a new corporation. It's also, because it's a copy of the same thing, most of the designs would result in sort of perfectly unified goals, and so you wouldn't need most of the management structure to coordinate these, because all the goals of the different copies would be aligned. So you can, currently there's very roughly about 5 billion computers, and how many AIs could we run on those? Well, I don't know, but it's probably quite a lot. And if we used AIs to produce more computers, how many AIs could we run on those? So basically, this is just the copy argument. With one AI, we have the potential of doing more intellectual exercise than the entire human population could do in 1,000 years, with numbers of that order, just through copying and a bit of specialization of the copies. And the sort of things that we can do with this, well, this is D-Day, one of the largest logistic operations in history. So a huge amount of planning, huge amount of building, organizing, and sort of wartime propaganda, keeping the countries together and the armies together. Most of this was cognitive work. There were some soldiers at the front line walking forward, but most of all this was just thinking work. And even sort of moving is basically robotics. But even if you exclude that, most of D-Day was planning, thinking, organizing, the industries, as I said, the propaganda, keeping people coordinated. So D-Day is mainly a cognitive task. And this is the sort of thing you might be able to do with one smart AI copied enough times. Apollo project is another extreme example. And I love this because here you have metal and fuel underground. And suddenly you have this on the moon with a man. And that happened purely because decision makers, engineers, and some business people decided to make it happen and arranged things to make it happen. So general relativity, here we're moving away from just the copying idea to what if the AI is actually the genius. Well, coming up with a new theory of physics, basically from ex nihilo, just sort of thinking it through, is the kind of thing you might see from the AI. Civil rights movement, again, the amount of organizing and motivating and planning here is tremendous. Harry Potter. Again, we're going back to the lone genius idea. There's no reasons to expect that AIs will not be able to write more popular books than any human can, if it can sort of tap into the right knowledge. And finally, fashionable here, investment strategies. People who work here know how much cognitive work goes into that. What if you had 10,000 years to think over every one of your decisions, which might happen if you had AIs run at high speed or copied a lot? So these are at least hints that AIs could become very powerful. I'm not saying that they necessarily will, but there's hints that they might. And this is my sort of favorite appropriate example for the time. The Roman Empire, most glorious empire of the world. Let's not talk about China, but the most glorious empire the world has ever seen. Augustus ruling this expansion, nothing can stand against it. Let's take a small part of it and pit it against the Roman Empire. We're going to do Switzerland versus the rest of the Roman Empire. But we do one small time slip. We do modern day Switzerland versus the old Roman Empire. I think it's pretty clear here that modern day Switzerland would completely overwhelm the glorious Roman legions. Not just because we have better weapons, but we have better industry, we have better science, we have better political structure. Everything is basically pointing to the advantage of modern Switzerland. But the interesting thing here is these are people, these are people. There is nothing fundamentally different between modern Switzerland and the Roman Empire in terms of the basic units, the humans behind it. All that's different is a difference in technology, a difference in organization, a cognitive difference, essentially. So this is the kind of thing you can go from something to something much more powerful just by being smarter. Okay, now why is this necessarily a risk? Just if AI could be powerful doesn't mean it would be dangerous. Well, the main risk is that there's no natural containment. This is the sort of toy model for an agent interacting with the environment. It gets a reward function. What's not included here is the human who gets to design the reward function and who gets to reboot the AI if things go badly. But this model is wrong because, as the AI might discover, and what is accurate, is that the human is part of the environment. In fact, everything is part of the environment. So the pressure from the AI to maximize its reward now translates, if it's smart enough, to pressure to take control of the human. Just naturally. Okay.
Make it 3.
Anyway, the basic point is there is no safe way of doing this. This is why Stuart Russell says that we don't, no an engineer talked about bridges that don't fall down, we just call it building bridges. Right now we have to say AI that is provably beneficial, but that would just be called AI. So the problem is that AI is effective at unbounded, unfriendly goals. There are ways of attacking this sentence at every level. Attacking the goals, attacking the unfriendliness, the effectiveness, and the unboundedness. I've done work, this is an immodest slide, but I've done work on all the ones that are in red, so there are different approaches and there are different ones that have been working on. I'll skip over this, which is about value learning, but we don't have time. The thing is now, what can we get from this if we got a fully aligned AI? Well, as I hinted before, you can secure your code in your machines for reasons to do with don't run Turing-complete languages where you don't have to, and for a variety of other reasons. It is possible to secure your code in theory, and an AI could do it in practice. It could also secure its machine, especially from interference, not so much from copy. Ferret out the truth. Now, we might feel that we're sort of post-truth, but that's because humans are flawed. It's actually very hard to lie, especially about important things, because once you lie about one thing, you have to start lying about everything. And the truth is a lot easier to ferret out than lies in most situations. And a machine without our cognitive flaws would be able to do this. Stop social engineering attacks. If you have an AI around this, they could stop the social engineering attacks, especially because the AI allows flexibility. Why do most social engineering attacks work? It's because, oh, my sister flushed my phone away when the dog ate it, and I'm about to do an operation to remove the nuclear bomb from my shoulder, and can you please give me this, it would save us. That kind of thing. That's I'm stereotyping, obviously, but those kind of work because these situations come up and there is no way of getting around them. And the smarter the AI is, the more flexibility you have to actually figure out, is this true, and I accept it, rather than a yes, no, rather than a you don't do this and then the humans let it through because of the sob story. We can do differential privacy and only legitimate information sharing. These things work fine in theory, they don't work in practice because basically there's the trust thing. But if the AI can figure out, is this a legitimate law enforcement thing, asking a legitimate question, and I can give it the information in a differentially privacy way, they can check this and then do it. And finally, there's sort of, AIs are capable of doing binding deals in ways that humans are not, if in no other way by merging their utility function. And I will just end on this slide. These are the variety of things that might be solved by a sufficiently powerful AI. Some of them are controversial, and I put them up there for the discussion. But but there are a lot of things that, as I say, with a sufficiently powerful AI might get solved. I notice I didn't put relative poverty, but absolute poverty is definitely something that could be solved. Because it's vastly oversimplified, but absolute poverty is some people don't have enough stuff. And building stuff and moving it to people is the kind of thing that AIs would be good at. This is the picture for sort of extremely powerful AIs. As you go lower down, you sort of get closer to now. So the extremely powerful AIs, by the way, someone mentioned AIs enslaving humans, not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen. if we get to the potential where AIs can enslave humans, humans are pretty much going to get squeezed out at that point. We're not the best slaves the AIs could use. So, but in any case, yeah. So, sorry for rushing through that. I seem to have missed the timing a bit. But to summarize, the AIs could become extremely powerful. They might be dangerous because they treat the humans as environment, and this is a correct thing for them to do. There are partial solutions that are being researched on this. If we get the AI to work, we can solve a huge host of problems.
Okay, so thanks a lot for Stuart. So, okay, now we're moving next. I want to excuse towards the audience. Today we have a packed program. I wish we could have more questions, but we're struggling to keep up the pace. The keynotes are a bit too tight. So next we will have a video interview we recorded last week with Jan Tallinn. Jan Tallinn is co-founder of Skype, and he famously sold it for $2.9 billion now to Microsoft. Ever since has been a prominent advocate and philanthropist in the area of AI research, and also quite a thought leader. And so he's very influential in many different cities. We were discussing things, and he has very interesting ideas about AI and governance. So we will see this interview, and okay, have we distributed the paper? Okay, so there are 5 questions that were asked Mr. Tallinn. Given the audio on my side was not that good via Skype, so I also have the questions in writing for all of you. So we'll start once Christian, once you're done, let me know, and I start. Okay. Okay, are we ready, Christian? Yeah, okay. All right, fantastic. So let's start.
The first question we have is, what should humanity do over the next 5 years on a government level to maximize the probability of a positive evolution of humanity in the context of ever more powerful AI?
Right. Thanks for having me. So, I think there are like 2 types of challenges from AI and other potentially disruptive technology. So one type is that once the technology is available to companies and people, what they're going to do with it. Like there's like a fairly, I wouldn't say robust, but like at least regulators and governments have experience regulating various technologies, and that kind of experience can be applied to also AI and other disruptive technologies. And then there's like another class of challenges, which is it's not less about how technology is used, but how should we prepare for unprecedented situations that we might face given the fact that this technology is available. So I can give an example. So a lot of people would, there's a disagreement about whether nuclear weapons are an existential risk or not. But like when people think about nuclear weapons, they think about like how these nuclear weapons are going to be used, and ideally like not going to be used. So that's like a sort of the first kind of challenge when I talk about these two kinds. However, before we got to that, there was this challenge that how would the Earth, the planet Earth, take the fact that, or take the new situation that there never has been as high temperatures on the planet than before the first nuclear declaration. And indeed, the Manhattan Project scientists actually did the first piece of existential research that humanity has done, where they're going to calculate what is the probability that the first nuclear detonation would actually destroy the Earth. So I do think that governments and regulatory bodies should kind of just keep doing what they do when it comes to the first challenge of just making sure that the technology is not misused. But about the second challenge, which is like how can we prepare for things that we haven't seen any precedents yet. This is kind of early to say like what the governments could do right now. So I think right now the main thing is to just do more research and figure out what are the how can we prepare for more robust responses when it comes to unforeseen situations.
Thank you, Jan. So it seems that one of the major issues is the famous unknown unknowns challenge. The second question is, nearly AI top leaders tend to agree that transnational coordination and solutions on AI are needed, and increasingly so. But most of them believe it is too early and offer scant details on how to achieve them. What do you think is the role of current transnational institutions, the new ones or changed ones, better ones?
Yeah, so like when I talked about building better ability to be responsive to new unforeseen situations, then it's like very plausible that a few things that would help. One of the things is just thinking about what kind of things would we need to plausibly regulate or control, and then building capacity to do that. For example, building capacity to regulate compute power, for example. This is something that people are not working on right now, but it's plausible that we might need something like that. We don't know, but it's plausible. And second thing we need is ability to do better and more quicker international cooperation when it turns out that okay, we have a problem, and how can we build up capacity to respond to that problem. And indeed, I think like the existing organizations should kind of think along those lines, how to kind of speed up the ability to respond, but more importantly, perhaps in parallel to that, we should think about what are the other methods to build international response times, or lower the international response times when it comes to large-scale coordination.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for the fine detail of your answer. So this is more on something you recently said. You've been reported to be saying. Actually, it wasn't a video, so it's certain that you actually said it. In this case, there was a recent interview during the Global Governance for Summit for a Global Governance for AI Summit, in which you stated that we'll need global governance over AI because its growing power will enable small groups to do huge harm. In a similar situation as, and I'm quoting you here, a world where nuclear weapons could be constructed with household materials. How could we reasonably mitigate such risks in the future in the context of AI?
Right, so indeed, as Max Tegmark, my good friend, says that last century we got lucky with the laws of physics. And one way we got lucky was that indeed, it turns out that nuclear explosion, a single nuclear explosion doesn't destroy the planet, which wasn't obvious before scientists did the analysis and finally did the test. It's kind of debatable whether the analysis was solid enough that they were was solid enough to justify the first nuclear, taking the risk with the first nuclear test. And the second time we got lucky was that turned out that constructing nuclear weapons is hard. You actually need the resources of a country, which again wasn't obvious before we actually went through the effort of creating those nuclear weapons. And kind of generalizing from that, we shouldn't kind of take it for granted that all new technologies will be easily controllable. They wouldn't pose a threat to the entire planet, or they would be easy or hard to construct for individuals. So indeed, in that light, we might need to at least think more harder about ways how can we counteract threats that come from small groups of people with whether bigger increasing with bigger increasing power of technology. And I know that people at Future Planet Institute in Oxford, for example, they do think about new ways to do surveillance. If you think about it, the surveillance in itself is like a neutral technology. The big problem with surveillance is that it kind of tends, in naive use, it tends to amplify the power differences in existing power hierarchy. So if one idea is that perhaps we can mitigate that bad side effect of surveillance, and thereby having use of technology to counteract risks. So I think it's very valuable to think about along those lines.
Thanks a lot for the also unconventional thoughts on this method. The surveillance in the contemporary camps that I've hardly been discussing in recent years. So your thoughts are quite interesting and aligning to also with the events organizing. More on the same, there's Nick Poscher, the famed AI researcher from Oxford University. Recently, took it a bit further, just having coordination of global entities for faster response. But he also centered a recent paper on the need to exit the semi-anarchy default condition. So basically, understanding that the global governance is basically the entity with the most guns and money rules. It's kind of far away at the end. He also highlighted huge challenge surveillance capabilities and preventive policing systems to minimize irresponsible and criminal AI deployment and research, while at the same time, of course, maintaining freedom and democracy, which are part of the safety equation in itself. What do you think of such proposals? Do you think that such challenges could be overcome, and how? I guess you hinted to that in the previous question, but.
Yeah, I do think that it's clearly the world is not ready for really stringent global coordination of clamping down on technology development, etc. But it's kind of important to start, I would say, continue research. Other ways how we could be kind of more consistent and indeed less anarchistic about can kind of think of 2 steps ahead. Like usually, as again Max Tegmark likes to say, is that we have been kind of like developing technology in ways that we just learn from errors. We invent invent fire, and then like we have like, a bunch of problems with it, and then we invent countermeasures, we invent cars, a lot of people get killed, and then we invent ways to reduce those accidents and increase the safety. Whereas like it's not clear that, or actually it's very plausible that with more and more powerful technologies, we cannot afford this like iterative, responsive method of making things safe. So we actually need to think like 2 steps ahead. So I think it's like, again, it's very valuable to think about ways what it would look like, what the world would look like, where there is actually kind of ability to respond to technology before they are actually going to put into practice and have potential disastrous side effects. But I think it's kind of, right now it seems like definitely too early to kind of just go ahead and start doing global plans and technology development or something like that. But I think it's really important to develop that capacity.
Okay, so we're going to cut short at question number 4, the fifth, because we're a little bit out of time. The fifth question was about there are proposals for a global AI Manhattan project. Most of you know about the Manhattan project being the project to develop the nuclear bomb, and so some suggest that nations should come together, democratic nations, to put more money than the Chinese government, or US government, or Google could put to AI, so that they can afford to care about security while developing. Otherwise now they're all competing for winner take all race, and so getting there before the others is way more important than trying to get something that ultimately could get control. So I will share the video after the event. So now, as next, I'm going to invite Troy, if you could just sit in the front. We start like showing the video. Okay, so...
Can you check if what I sent you is okay?
Oh, okay, yeah, let's check the slides.